Throughout history, various monarchs have left distinctive legacies, often excelling in specific traits such as being great warriors, administrators, law enforcers, or poets. However, it was rare for a single ruler to demonstrate proficiency in multiple domains. Nevertheless, such a remarkable case can be observed in the sixth king of Portugal, Dinis, who is remembered to this day for his diverse accomplishments and various cognomens. Dinis was born on the 9th of October 1261 in Lisbon. His father, Afonso III, passed away in 1279, when the prince was 17 years old. At this age, he ascended to the throne on the 16th of February of the same year. Like previous kings, Dinis assumed the throne during a period of relative crisis. His father's illness in the final years had prevented effective public administration, leading to a weakening of the crown's power in certain regions of the kingdom. Moreover, there was a significant increase in crime in the central region of Portugal, as criminals no longer feared repercussions. Upon becoming king, Dinis implemented stringent measures, imposing serious penalties, including death, on all captured criminals to discourage future offenses. Despite this, he consistently aimed to uphold justice and ensure fair trials. The reign of Dinis marked the first comprehensive administration in Portugal, characterized by the creation of laws that reflected the political, economic, and social conditions of the kingdom. His commitment to justice was a paramount aspect of his rule, driven by a sense of obligation inherent in his position. Throughout his rule, Dinis focused on stabilizing the borders with Castile, investing heavily in the repair of castles along the border. Additionally, he prioritized investments in agriculture, promoted economic development, and notably increased support for culture, arts, and education, surpassing the efforts of any previous ruler. In the aftermath of the challenging final years of his father's rule, which included an interdict on the Kingdom of Portugal, Dinis prioritized resolving conflicts with the clergy. In 1279, he dispatched an embassy to Rome to negotiate with Pope Nicholas III and Portuguese bishops residing there. The resolution, however, only occurred during the tenure of Pope Nicholas IV, culminating in Dinis swearing to never antagonize Rome during the royal commissions of 1289. This adept diplomacy ended 22 years of conflict. Despite these achievements, Dinis faced another significant challenge in the form of civil conflict in the first decade of his rule. The conflict emerged with Afonso, another son of Afonso III, and logically brother of Dinis. Afonso, who had been granted substantial lands by his father, posed a potential threat as he married a Castilian noblewoman and had daughters who were married to Castilian noblemen, raising concerns about the transfer of Portuguese lands to foreign aristocracy. Additionally, Afonso asserted his right to the throne based on canonical claims, challenging Dinis' legitimacy due to his birth during a time of interdict on the kingdom. In 1286, Dinis opposed his brother's ownership of lands in the central region, leading Afonso to seek support from his sons-in-law, who attacked the area in 1287. Dinis resolved the issue by arranging a marriage between his son and the daughter of King Sancho IV of Castile. However, in 1299, he had to mobilize troops to confront his brother in the castles of Arronches, Marvão, and Porto Alegre. Afonso eventually conceded, signing a treaty that acknowledged lands granted by Dinis in Sintra, Orem, and territories near Lisbon. This strategic move aimed to ensure that former territories held by Afonso on the border remained solely under the crown's control, preventing Castilian nobility from creating instability in the region. King Dinis demonstrated profound legal knowledge in the initial years of his reign, akin to his grandfather Afonso II. Simultaneously, he emulated his great-grandfather Sancho I's interest in territorial expansion. issuing numerous charters to benefit lands, particularly in the kingdom's interior. While the quantity of charters issued by Dinis did not surpass those of Sancho I, his focus lay in enhancing the development of each donation, like had never been done before. Each charter strategically encompassed vast agricultural fields, contributing to the growth of many regions' importance across Portugal. In addition to his territorial initiatives, King Dinis ensured that the crown acquired agriculturally valuable lands, including Muj, Benavente, Azambuja, and the wood of Botão, among others. However, the land became more closely associated with Dinis than Leiria. Here, his father had already established the renowned Pinhal de Leiria, a pine forest that Dinis significantly expanded. Notably, Dinis introduced the planting of maritime pines, replacing stone pines. Though initially aiming to prevent dune sand from encroaching on agricultural areas, the pine wood would have a far-reaching impact, as it later supplied the robust material for constructing the caravels, naus, galleys, and galleons of the 15th and 16th centuries. The father of Dinis, Afonso III, had brought from France during his rule the latest literary trends, enabling the monarch to witness the flourishing of this art. Dinis actively observed and contributed to the development of the literary arts in Portugal, establishing himself as one of the preeminent and most prolific European troubadours of his era. In the present time, we have 137 songs of his, which encompass diverse genres, such as 73 love songs, 51 friend songs, and 10 satire songs. Furthermore, King Dinis would play a crucial role as a promoter of the Portuguese language, making it the official language in the documents of the kingdom for the first time in its history. In addition, his interest in promoting education made the first universities arise in the kingdom, those being the General Study of Lisbon, created in 1290, which was then moved to Coimbra in 1308. The University of Coimbra is today one of the oldest universities in the world, still in operation. Three decades before the birth of Dinis, the kingdoms of Leon and Castile united to form the larger crown of Castile, creating the largest polity in the Iberian Peninsula. This new power raised concerns among neighboring kingdoms, both Muslim and Christian. After King Sancho IV of Castile passed away, leaving a 9-year-old son born into a marriage with no validity, the kings of Portugal and Aragon, along with the Taif of Granada, formed an alliance in 1296 to attempt to dismantle the unified polity, reverting it to the two separate kingdoms that existed previously. In 1296, King Dinis of Portugal and Prince Pedro of Aragon swiftly reached Simancas. The young Castilian king and his mother were very close by in Valladolid. Despite Dinis's advantaged position, attempting to negotiate the surrender of the regent queen proved futile. Still, the monarch found himself in an advantageous position, but he chose not to advance on Valladolid. It is speculated that he awaited additional Aragonese reinforcements that never arrived. Meanwhile, hundreds of kilometers away, Portugal was also attacking Castile in the borders with Alentejo. Campo Maior and Alvad ended up falling to the Portuguese. The Castilians responded to these attacks with incursions, including a fleet that reached Lisbon and captured a few ships. However, the Portuguese intercepted and defeated it off the coast of Sines. Violence escalated on both sides, prompting the need for a resolution. As for Dinis and his army stationed in Simancas, several Castilian nobles allied with him started changing sides or deserting, leading the monarch to retreat to Medina del Campo. Eventually, with a diminished army, the king decided to abandon his primary goals. Nevertheless, the enraged Portuguese forces conquered the castle of Torres, near Ciudad Rodrigo, leaving a garrison that was later defeated by the Castilians. While the main objective of the campaign was not achieved, both Portugal and Aragon were successful in acquiring territories near their borders. For the Kingdom of Dinis, Ribacoa was occupied, along with various forts in Alentejo. Subsequently, the regent Queen of Castile, Maria, signed the treaty in 1297 with King Dinis to end the conflict and define new borders between Castile and Portugal. The treaty, known as the Treaty of Alcanizes, also stipulated that Ferdinand IV of Castile would marry Dinis' daughter, Constança, and that Prince Afonso IV of Portugal would marry Princess Beatrice of Castile. For a considerable period, the military orders operating in both Portugal and Castile were led by the same provincial masters. However, King Dinis recognized that there were inherent risks in maintaining such a structure. The Order of Santiago, especially crucial in the conquest of Algarve, posed a significant danger, as it was a Castilian order with masters who could potentially collaborate with the King of Castile against Portugal. Similar concerns were raised regarding the Order of Calatrava, another Castilian order. Even the Hospitallers, despite not being founded in Castile, were viewed as a potential threat. In response, King Dinis took a decisive action by nationalizing all the military orders in Portugal. In 1288, a papal bull was issued by Pope Nicholas IV, allowing for Portuguese Knights of the Order of Santiago to become provincial masters. However, during the Castilian-Portuguese War of 1296, Castilian pressure led to a later pope, named Celestine V, revoking the decree issued by Nicholas. Consequently, the Portuguese Knights of Santiago were once again required to obey the General Master of Santiago, based in Castile. Finally, in 1314, the Portuguese took matters into their own hands by electing a new Provincial Master of Santiago, disregarding Celestine's revocation from 1296. Seizing an opportune moment with the death of Pope Clement V, the Portuguese Knights hoped that the new Bishop of Rome would have a different mindset than those who had come before him. Both the Castilian Knights of Santiago and Pope John XXII seemingly did not object. In late 1318, King Dinis dispatched an embassy to Pope John XXII, hoping for the confirmation of the old bull issued by Nicholas IV. The Pope then deferred the matter to the Archbishops of Braga and Santiago de Compostela, who, in agreement, affirmed the bull. Consequently, Portugal was now permitted to have its own Portuguese provincial masters. This diplomatic victory, achieved during the reign of Dinis, significantly contributed to the stability of the borders between Portugal and Castile. However, despite his achievement, the rule of Dinis would not be primarily associated with the Order of Santiago, as another order created during his reign would play a more profound role in the history of Portugal. As evident in my previous videos, the Templars played a crucial role in the establishment of the Kingdom of Portugal, having been present in the territory even before its formal establishment. However, their fate took a drastic turn in the early 1300s when King Philip IV of France found himself heavily indebted to the order. In a plot against the Christian military order, which had contributed significantly to his kingdom's history, Philip IV pressured the Pope to issue an order for their extinction. In 1312, the once widely spread Templar order met its end. King Dinis of Portugal, however, could not accept what he perceived as a great injustice. Compounding the situation, the Templars' properties were ordered to be transferred to the Hospitallers. Despite attempts at negotiation with the papacy to reclaim the lands he had donated to the Templars, Dinis faced rejection. Determined to address the situation, Dinis conceived the idea of creating a new military order that would inherit all the lands and property of the Templars. On the 14th of March 1319, Pope John II issued the bull Ad ea ex quibus, confirming the establishment of a new religious military order, the Order of Christ. Interestingly, no property was physically relocated because the members of this new order were the Templars themselves. They were not persecuted or expelled from Portugal, but instead became the first knights of the Order of Christ. In his pursuit of nationalizing the military orders, Dinis inadvertently ended up creating a new one, motivated by external circumstances. The cross of the Order of Christ would later become emblematic worldwide. It adorned the sails of Vasco da Gama's fleet when he reached the Indian subcontinent, and accompanied Pedro Álvares Cabral when he arrived in Brazil. Once again, a measure taken by Dinis had a profound impact not only on Portuguese history, but also on the global historical narrative. Since the reign of King Afonso I, Portugal had possessed various galleys, participating in confrontations at sea dating back to the 12th century. Notable events include the 1180 Battle of Cape Espichel against the Almohad Caliphate, naval support during the conquests of Lisbon and Silves, and incursions reaching the North African city of Ceuta. The 13th century witnessed similar naval engagements during the Crusades to reconquer Alcácer do Sal and Faro, as in the Portuguese-Castilian War of 1296. Despite these maritime activities, Portugal, like many European countries, lacked an organized navy. This changed under the rule of King Dinis, whose original intent was to establish a powerful fleet to counter Muslim attacks on the coast. While some naval confrontations occurred during his reign, the formal creation of the Portuguese Navy only took place in 1317, when the monarch appointed the Genoese sailor Manuel de Peçanha as the first Royal Admiral of Portugal. This decision proved wise, as the Genoese were renowned as some of the best sailors in Europe. Initially, the newly formed navy focused more on trade than warfare, establishing strong commerce relations with Flanders, Genoa, England, and other polities. Admiral Manuel de Peçanha received numerous privileges, including a substantial monetary payment, extensive land grants, and the assurance that his eldest son could succeed him in his position. However, this arrangement granting authority to the admiral even over other lords was not universally accepted. Still, Portugal now had an organized navy. This navy, established in 1317, is recognized as the oldest in the world that is still operational today. As mentioned earlier, King Dinis faced internal strife early in his rule, with a conflict against his brother. Still, that confrontation would fail in comparison to a new civil war involving none other than his own son, Afonso. This familial discord stemmed from Dinis' infidelity, resulting in the birth of a bastard son named Afonso Sanches, who enjoyed various privileges under his father's protection. In 1314, Dinis appointed Afonso Sanches as the major domo of the kingdom, effectively granting him control over the government's organization. This move deeply offended the legitimate heir, Afonso, who promptly rebelled against his father. By 1320, the conflict had escalated into a full-fledged civil war, with Afonso's objective being to ascend the throne and claim what he believed to be his birthright. He garnered support from Castile and various noblemen. The Pope intervened, attempting to end the conflict by warning Afonso's supporters of the dangers they faced. Despite the clear siding with King Dinis, the nobility remained divided. Even Afonso's mother urged him to halt the rebellion, but he disregarded her pleas. While it was initially rumored that Dinis' wife, Saint Isabel, supported her son, she actually sought to prevent direct conflict between the armies of her husband and son, which she actually did in Alvalade, near Lisbon, in 1323. Despite these efforts, the war persisted. In the same year, Dinis drafted a testament ordering Afonso to respect his donations, including those made to his illegitimate son, Afonso Sanches. However, hostilities continued, as evidenced by Afonso's absence during the royal commissions in Lisbon, in 1323. Additionally, the legitimate Afonso expressed a desire to strip his brother of the titles and lands bestowed upon him. The situation further escalated when, weakened by illness caused by an heart attack in 1322, Dinis couldn't protect Afonso Sanches, who had to leave Portugal for Castile. The civil war finally concluded in 1324 with a peace agreement between Dinis and his legitimate son. Despite the formal resolution, the lingering resentment persisted between father and son. In 1325, at the age of 63, King Dinis passed away due to myocarditis or angina. Despite the fact his rule saw some of the greatest successes in Portugal's history unfold, his final days were marked by a somber ending. Afflicted by illness, Dinis became a debilitated man who had to be carried around. Also, he paid the price for his shortcomings as a husband to his wife and as a father to his legitimate son. Historian Joaquim Veríssimo Serrão described the king's last moments. It was in familiar conflict that, a sick and solitary man, the poet-king and lover of the pleasures of life, closed his eyes after almost half a century of government that opened a new way for the Portuguese monarchy. Dinis holds the distinction of being the third longest reigning king in Portuguese history and was one of the monarchs who called for the court most frequently. His legacy is evident in his impactful actions, including the establishment of one of the most powerful navies in world history, the creation of a military order that would have global influence, the expansion in size of a pine forest that would supply materials for the first ships that sailed the globe, the founding of one of the oldest universities in the world, the creation of some of the greatest poems and songs of the Middle Ages, and the crucial role he played in creating the Portuguese language.